Okay, hey guys. Today we're going to go over the discussion questions for Descartes' first meditation. The first question asked you about Descartes' task, right? So basically, what is this guy doing? Why is he doing it? And what is he hoping to accomplish by doing this? And this is a super important question to ask, not just when we're doing Descartes, but all the time. Because as obvious as it sounds, if you don't know what someone's trying to do, if you don't know what questions they're asking, the reading isn't going to make any sense. Like if I gave you some really difficult technical text from a discipline that you're not familiar with, you have absolutely no frame of reference. You're going to look at it and be like, what is this? I don't get it. So step zero is you have to know what the conversation is about, what questions are being asked, and what they're undertaking, basically. So to understand Descartes' task, we have to say a little bit about knowledge. Now, if you looked at the worksheets I gave you guys on Canvas, you'll know that in this class we're doing a brief history of early modern metaphysics and epistemology. Metaphysics is the branch of philosophy, you will have seen, that deals with questions about reality and existence, right? What exists? How do I, like, what is real? Is there a God? Things like that. Epistemology, on the other hand, is the branch concerned with knowledge, right? What is knowledge? How can I go about knowing things? How can we separate knowledge from, non-knowledge, just a mere belief or something like that? And these two are inextricably linked. And you're going to see that when we do Descartes. So to start off, we have to understand this question, and I'll put it up here. What can I know? And I want you guys to think about this for a little bit, right? Seriously, what can you know? What is a thing that you think you know with absolute certainty? That you think you know with absolute certainty. This could be as basic as you want. You got something? Okay, so hold on to it. Now, if I asked you guys whether or not you believed you could doubt that belief, if you've chosen something super simple, you'll say, no, of course I'm not going to be able to doubt that. And that's going to push us into the conversation for today. Now, in philosophy, one of the things we have to be wary of is there's a difference between appearance and reality sometimes. Things aren't always what they appear to be. And philosophy very much shakes our certainty, right? It makes us uncomfortable, and that's okay. It can be frustrating and maddening, but it's something we got to do. So if we start with this question, what can I know? It's going to make more sense when we read Descartes. So what is he doing? Well, there are these two positions we could take when we're looking at this question. The first position is to say, well, I could know basically everything. I obviously know everything. It's so easy, right? The opposite is to say we can't know anything. It is impossible to know anything, so we're just left in the dark forever. Now, neither of those two positions are good. I guess, more personally frustrating one is to get over that first one, right? Like we don't know everything. And that's okay. And philosophy, again, really asks us to focus on that fact. But now what's going to happen, especially as we go through the text, is it's going to seem like Descartes and philosophers in general are wanting to put us on that other end. It's going to seem like they want us to say, you know what, we can't know anything. Life is weird and crazy. I don't know, right? But I promise that's not what they're trying to do. It's going to look like it at first, especially in meditation 1. But I promise we're not just going to stand here and wind up in a situation where we say, oh, we can't know anything, end of story. We're going to get somewhere. We just have to really, really try hard and focus on logic and evidence. So if you look at the very beginning of Meditation 1, Descartes says, several years have now passed since I first realized how numerous were the false opinions that in my youth I had taken to be true, and thus how doubtful were all those that I had subsequently built upon them. Basically, this guy got to a point in his life where he realized that everything he believed to be true was actually false. And this is a big deal. It's like world shattering because it's not just minor beliefs, it's really big beliefs. So to understand where Descartes is coming from, we have to think about this idea of a foundation. So when we're talking about knowledge, we use the metaphor of foundations. So if you think of a building or a pyramid, or you have all these different layers, and we know that the bottommost layer is the foundation. Now, imagine a building, right? What happens if you knocked the foundation out? If you just took the bottom of the building out, it would collapse, right? Everything would fall necessarily. Knowledge is like that too. Whether we realize it or not, the picture in our head, our worldview, everything is kind of suited into this foundationalist picture, right? So we have these foundational beliefs, and then we build other beliefs on top of those foundational beliefs. And if you think of knowledge this way, you're going to understand quickly, like, oh, I understand why when you get rid of the bottom belief, everything else falls. So it's a big deal. Now, to give an example, so obviously science is continually changing its worldview, but back in the day, scientists used to believe in this substance, this element called phlogiston. And phlogiston was thought to be the thing that made things flammable. So if I just, grabbed a lighter and lit this easel on fire, you would say, oh, it's flammable because there's a lot of phlogiston in the wood. And so scientists had this fundamental belief in phlogiston, and then they built all these other beliefs on top of it. So, okay, we believe in this element, so now, okay, we fix the rest of our theory around this element and explain things in terms of it. And then we set up all these lab procedures and this method, and now we teach this in the universities, and this is how we conduct ourselves when we're doing engineering work based on phlogiston. Now one day came the point where we realized, oh, there's no such thing as phlogiston. Now once that happens, you can't still have all this up here. Necessarily, that all crumbles too. When you lose the foundation, you lose everything else that's built on top of it. So Descartes got to a point in his life where he realized his foundational beliefs were wrong, which means basically everything he thought was wrong. And so what is he trying to do in this text? He's trying to rebuild that structure, right? He's trying to start from the bottom up. What can I know? And why is he doing it? Well, he's doing it so that he never gets to a point in his life where he has this earth-shattering moment again. And in order to do that, we don't just want to know something. Because, I know that if you don't water a plant that needs water, it's not going to grow. I know that if I drop this marker, it's going to fall. It's not going to float up. Think about what you picked. Maybe you picked something like, oh, I know humans need oxygen to survive. Maybe you said, I know how to do laundry. Maybe you said, I know how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like, we know that. But what if I told you could doubt all of that? We can imagine that these pivotal beliefs are actually false, right? We can imagine that when I drop the marker, it's going to float up. It's probably not going to happen, but there's nothing stopping you from thinking that. So all of those things we've chosen are actually capable of being false. And again, it's not about probability. It's about possibility. So it's possible that they're false. And Descartes says, hey, I want to build a foundation of my structure of knowledge that's so strong that it is literally impossible for it to be false. It's impossible to imagine that it could be doubted. So the question in the meditations is not merely what can I know. It's a little bit more complicated. The question is, what can I know with absolute certainty? That changes things. Because if we can figure out something that we know with absolute certainty, we will never find ourselves in a position where everything crumbles. Because no matter what, we know this foundational belief is going to last. So another way of saying what can I know with absolute certainty is to say what can I know indubitably. Fancy word. I don't even know if that's spelled right. What can I know indubitably or undoubtedly? Right? We're trying to figure out something that we can't even doubt, no matter how hard we try. Right? No matter how good of thinkers we are, we want to find something that we can't doubt. So, in other words, Descartes wants to make a philosophy that is without any assumptions. Or in other words, without any presuppositions. It's an important word to know. So Descartes wants to be presuppositionless. Right? He wants to make a theory of knowledge, a theory of reality that doesn't rest on any assumptions. Right? So the question is, how do we do this? How do we even start to try and be like, what could I know that's so absolute that even in your imagination we can't imagine it being wrong? And he's going to do this by means of a method of doubt. This is what he says on that first page. He says, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to think of all the things that I think I know. All the foundational things that I think I know. And I'm going to ask myself, can it be doubted? In any way, shape, or form, no matter how silly it sounds. And if it can be doubted, even in the slightest, he's going to throw it away. It's garbage. Because he doesn't want something that's just strong. He wants something that's undoubtable. So if you could doubt it, by definition, it's not undoubtable, and it can't be a solid, indubitable foundation. That's his task, right? Descartes is seeing what he can know with absolute certainty because he doesn't want his whole worldview to collapse. He wants to build a firm and lasting foundation for the sciences. He doesn't want to make any assumptions. And he's going to do this by method of doubt. And he's going to hope to accomplish that solid foundation, right? So I think that's enough insight for now about that first discussion post question. Now, the second question has to do with math. And this is where it gets a little weird and requires us to really think hard about this whole exercise. So when he starts this task, he says, all right, what's the first thing that I'm going to consider as a foundation for knowledge? And the first thing he considers, as you know, is sensory information. Right? He says, maybe that's true. Maybe that's a good foundation. I look out into the world, I see stuff. I hear something, I touch something, I know it's real. I know it's there, right? But he says, can I doubt sensory information? Can I doubt my senses? And the answer is, absolutely you could doubt your senses. Imagine, I don't know, you're walking down the street, you're walking towards a corner on the street, and you think you hear your name. You're like, oh, someone just called my name. So you run around the corner, and no one's there. No one called your name, right? You thought you heard something, but you actually didn't. Or a mirage, right? You see something in the distance, and it's not there. Or even you're hanging out with your friends, you're going camping, I always say, and you're hanging out in the tent, and it looks like someone's coming to kill you from the woods, right? You see this weird shadowy figure, and you pop your head out, and you realize, okay, it's not a person coming to kill me, it's just some trees, right, floating in the wind and pushing some shadow onto the tent, right? So your senses absolutely can be doubted. So they can't serve as that foundation that we need. You may be thinking, okay, sometimes we could doubt our senses, but not all the time, right? Like, yeah, maybe I think I hear my name, but I don't. But surely I know that I'm sitting in front of the computer right now watching this video for my intro to philosophy class, right? Surely I know that I'm sitting in my bed right now or sitting at the desk or at the library or wherever you are. But do you really know that? Now, probably it's true, sure, but Descartes has this funny line. He says on the second page something like, all of this is on page 14, the third full paragraph. He says, "This would all be well and good were I not a man who is accustomed to sleeping at night and to experiencing in my dreams the very same things, or even now and then even less plausible ones." And the point is, you could be dreaming, right? You think you're sitting here right now watching the video. I think I'm up here talking to you guys through this video, and I'm actually not, because I could be dreaming. As silly as that sounds, you could imagine it. And the mere fact that you can imagine it means that those beliefs, no matter how obviously true they sound, are literally, by definition, doubtable, right? Because you're able to doubt them. That's what that means. And he does this a bunch of times, and you say, okay, maybe if you dream, that's not real, but the things in your dreams are based on real things, right? So even though maybe I'm not really up here talking to you guys right now at this whiteboard in my living room, somewhere there exists whiteboards in living rooms, right? Even if these particular ones aren't real. Maybe, but you could doubt that too, right? Maybe you're a brain in a vat somewhere. You've heard that phrase, and all the information being fed to you is actually just some kind of false projection. Think of The Matrix, if you guys have ever seen that. The Matrix is like an action movie representation of this one idea in Descartes. So it could be the case. And he follows this doubt all the way down the rabbit hole, where it's like, not only can we doubt the existence of specific objects, we could doubt the existence of our bodies, right? Because I think I have hands, but maybe not, because someone, we could be dreaming or whatever. But we could also doubt the existence of shape, the existence of mass, the existence of color, and everything. And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, what else can I know? And he says, maybe, even though sensory information is doubtable, maybe mathematical knowledge isn't. So, for example, the a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? This solid geometric principle. Or basic algebra, or even basic arithmetic, like 2 plus 2 is 4. How could you doubt that? It seems indisputable, right? Once we have a common understanding of the concept of 2, and we have a common understanding of addition and equals and 4, then the statement 2 plus 2 equals 4 seems to be like there's no way you could doubt that. And he says, this is the closest we've come. This is the closest we've come. Maybe this is the indubitable foundation, but it's not. He gets creative. So bear with him. He says, it's possible that God exists. We don't know that for certain, but it's possible that God exists. We have to consider this, right? And so if God exists, that means God could be all-powerful and all-knowing and all that stuff. Now, we typically imagine that God is infinitely good. But why? There's no necessary reason for us to believe that. Can't we imagine that there is a God that's all-powerful and all-knowing, but it's infinitely bad? And this God is using all of its power to deceive us, right? This God is deceiving me into thinking that 2 plus 2 is 4, right? I think 2 plus 2, and actually the answer is something else, but God is stepping in and putting some false answer in my head. Can't that be the case? Probably not. He's not saying this is true, but he's not concerned with it. He's just concerned with airtight logic, right? So he's saying, because there could be a God who could be an evil deceiver all of the time, mathematical knowledge itself is dubitable, is able to be doubted. So, at the end of meditation 1, it's looking pretty grim. Because we can doubt everything. Once you introduce the evil God into the equation, it's like, okay, I don't know how I'm supposed to save myself, but that's it. And at the beginning of the video, I said, remember how it's going to look like Descartes and the philosophers are putting us in that position to say, oh, we can't know anything. And at the end of meditation 1, it looks like that, but I promise you that's not what he's going to do. In meditation 2, we have a solid answer with seemingly airtight logic, and it's a really important answer, and that's going to serve as our foundation. And once we have that, then we can start to build on top of it, and things become a little bit easier, right? And also, the foundation that Descartes establishes in Meditation 2 is going to be the basis for most, if not all, of the subsequent readings we have, right? So, doing philosophy is kind of like watching a movie or just walking into a conversation. So, if you miss an early part of the conversation and all the later parts are based on that earlier thing, you're going to have a hard time understanding what's going on. Or if you start a movie like 30 minutes in and you miss some really important information in the beginning, then you're not going to have the context that's required to render that information intelligible. You're just going to have no idea what's going on. At best, you're going to have a half understanding, and we don't want a half understanding. So we want to make sure that we have a firm understanding of what Descartes is trying to do, the exercise he walks us through, and why even mathematical knowledge is doubtable. And this is going to put us in a position where meditation 2 is going to be really important and help us, and where John Locke and George Berkeley and David Hume, the next readings, where they're going to make sense too. So I think that's it for now. I tried to make that as brief as possible while also not cutting vital information out. But if you guys still have some confusion, you still have any questions, there's a couple things you could do. One, you could check out the supplementary resources I gave you guys. So that would be the Palmer textbook, if you have that. That would be looking at the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, which is basically like Wikipedia, but written by philosophy professors and researchers. Similarly, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy is helpful. And honestly, just YouTube and Wikipedia are great starting points. I know a lot of people say don't do that. I don't believe that's true. I think Wikipedia could be a great starting point. It's not, something you want to base an essay on, because things might not be precise. But if you're just trying to start and you need like a good beginning point, go to Wikipedia and look at YouTube. There's so many videos about this stuff because people have been researching and talking about it for hundreds of years. And some of this stuff, especially when you go back to the ancient Greeks, like thousands of years, right? So start there. If you're still having trouble, email me, right? I gave you guys my Middlesex email. It's on the syllabus. Check that out. And I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can, with the goal of, having this stuff that seems odd right now make the most sense possible, because it actually does show us some important things about the way we think and the way we approach the world, and how important logical reasoning is. So that's it for today, guys. I'll see you around.